So now we get into flipping switches. We're in the movement lab. This is where all the magic happens in my studio. Home, where we play with movement, we play with science, we put it all together, and then we come up with these ideas that are already out there that people have put together, how neuroscience, psychology, yoga, and this practice of all these things go together to create a really transformative ability for us to have self-care and share self-care with our friends and our peers at the same time. So this little formula for flipping switches integrates all the things we know about the amygdala, the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, flipping our lid. It applies to trauma. It's something that goes with every body type, every space. It has nothing to do with the studio. It has nothing to do with any sort of special tools. This is just the process of awareness. Step one in flipping these switches. And you may notice that there's distractions, even where I am right now. I didn't pick a perfectly quiet spot to do this practice because when you are practicing this in real life, outside of a training, outside of a classroom, outside of a studio, it has to work or it doesn't matter what you learned. The only way we can get into our mind and actively flip these switches of stress and triggers and bring calm and rest and balance into our system is by starting to pay attention and then doing it more and more and more and more until it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a lifestyle, and then it becomes a way that your brain exists, which is much more balanced and equitable to everyone and to yourself, because you're not chasing after every emotion or being pushed around by every feeling that you have. You have an identity now that allows you to settle and say, oh, I've seen this feeling before. It feeds your prefrontal cortex the ability to reference new emotions, bring them back, and turn off the stress response that may not have seen these emotions before. It might not have had language for these emotions before. But now that we sit and we pay attention for a moment, we can start to pick apart some of these layers and give them names, and then give them homes and destinations besides just being anxious or stressful or painful. And just as you go through your house at the end of a night before you put yourself to bed, and you check the lights, the stove, you check the locks on the doors, maybe you check on your kids or your pets, or you do those final rituals that signal your mind and body that rest is close and you can start to slow down. And in that healthy, balanced state, these triggers give you the signals to start to soften your body. And when they don't work, it's also a signal that you're becoming overwhelmed with stress, that maybe burnout is on the horizon for you. Maybe you're lacking some resilience because you're not taking the time for self-care. So in these moments of awareness as we practice together, open your mind. That means different things for each of us. Opening your mind may be giving yourself permission to pay attention to your body. It might be softening your ears to the sounds around you. It may be giving yourself permission to handle distractions as they arise without frustration. And then you start to keep that awareness and open it into the tension in your body. Where do you feel your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, your fingers, your back, your hips, your knees, your ankles, your toes? Are there any switches there, anything that's tense in your jaw or in your forehead? With a thought, you can just say, oh, go away, or let it go. Check your shoulders, tops of your shoulders drop away from the ears. And imagine gravity covering your whole body, trusting that it's holding you to your seat. There's nothing you really have to do but get comfortable. Continuing to be aware of distractions, letting them remind you that you come back to your breathing, which is where we'll go next in this process of flipping switches. We've opened our mind to the field of awareness, to where we sit in the room, in our seat, in our body, in our clothing, in our thoughts. And bring it back together with the anchor of that inhale, noticing it in through your nose and out through your nose. Every time you have a noise, a sound, a sensation in your body, remind yourself, I'm breathing and I'm hearing. If you're having a feeling, I'm breathing and I'm bored. Right now I'm breathing and I hear an airplane. Another tool for breath awareness is breathing with a number. So counting every inhale up to the number 10. Every inhale, you add a number. If you happen to get lost or distracted along the count, simply start back at 1. If you do make it to 10, start back at 1. Every distraction, every sound, use them as tools. The idea is to take this into a classroom, into a grocery store, into your busy house filled with activity. Notice your breath expand out into your clothes. Sense if your shoulders lift when you breathe in. Can you continue to drop the shoulders down? Gently press the ribs back, lining them up over the hips. You may feel a slight sensation of effort in your core when you slide your ribs back, as if you're pressing up against an invisible wall. Inhale and exhale. We've played with regular, steady breathing. We've played with adding a count to the breath, 1 to 10, and then starting over. We've played with realigning the body, aligning the shoulders over the ribs, ribs over the hips, pressing down through the bottom of the body, press down through the heels on the ground, press up through the crown of your head. Every time you have a distraction, you come back to this feeling. Press down, lift up, breathe in and out. And then notice anywhere in the body that might want to move, that might want to stretch. You don't need yoga poses to move your body. The process of yoga, remember, is coming into the body, the mind, and the breath together. So maybe you breathe in and lift up. Breathe out and reach to one side. As you breathe in, you lift up. Breathe out. Move to the other side. You can feel the energy happening through the side of the body each time you come to side to side. You may notice that little sit-up feeling. It might be a big sit-up feeling. Come back to center. Bring your arms down. Reach back and behind your chair. If you have grips on your chair to hold on to, push your chest forward. Lift your shoulders up. Roll them back. Use this movement. And then pull yourself in, lift one knee towards your body. And you can curl. If you're sitting in a chair, maybe you're just sitting up, pulling the knee towards your chest. And bring it down, coming into that next knee. Allow movement to take over the whole body. Maybe you need to stand up. You might need some extra space. You come into standing. You may hold the back of your chair or the table where you are and walk yourself back. So you're sideways and you're leaning and you're stretching through your shoulders. Or you can drop the chair and lean down towards your toes, bending your knees as much as you need to get into this shape. It's totally possible in any type of clothing. Finding the variation that works for you. You can widen your feet. Hinge at the hips and forward fold. You can do all this seated. You can widen your knees from your seat in your chair and fold over in between your legs. Roll yourself up, either seated or standing. Stack, pulling the ribs over the hips, the shoulders over the ribs. Breathe in. And breathe out, hugging at the top. Breathe in and stretch. Breathe out, opposite hand on top. Breathe and back. And maybe just shaking it out. If you're sitting in your chair, roll. Be creative. Take the next moment for yourself. Take some breaths. Play with it. Stay in the awareness. Stay in the breathing or stay in the movement or put the pieces together depending on where you are in your practice. Maybe you do this regularly. Maybe you want to deepen it by integrating. Maybe you're just playing with the awareness. Sit there for a moment and just listen. Notice. Maybe you play with those different forms of breathing we've already practiced. Or you let yourself stretch. But for the next moment or two, we'll push pause and explore some movement.